And there came a day unlike... Wait, no, that's been done. Who knows what evil lurks in... No, that is that other thing. What has yellow skin and rights? Ah, forget it. You're listening to Panelology. Excelsi, oh damn it.
Welcome to episode 246 of Panelology. I'm Alex.
And I am Brian.
How you doing this week?
Pretty good. Managed to dodge two different potential exposures, so I'm happy, yeah.
Cool. I once again have a car.
Oh, very good.
My 8-day-long car-free life ended on Thursday.
Yay, and now, not that it matters because can't go anywhere, but
Well, I do have to go to the grocery store
occasionally.
I know. Yeah.
You understand my point, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, that was me for like the week. I'm like, I have nowhere to go. I shouldn't go anywhere, but I wish I had the option.
Exactly.
That's what it boils down to. I will say this car has one feature that my last car did not.
Okay.
That on my 5 a.m. grocery run, as I do, was a game changer for me this week with it just below freezing outside. And that is
seat heaters.
Well, no, I don't like seat heaters. I find them uncomfortable.
Okay.
But the steering wheel heater
was
lovely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Anyway, that is that. It is I would call the color of this car Fantastic Four blue.
I love it.
Less TARDIS than my old car, but more Ben Grimm's shorts.
Okay. There you go.
Yep. And on that note, let's talk about some comics.
I love it. Yes, sir. Let's do that.
I have once again put our Future State books in chronological order. And for those of you playing along at home, we're also going to try to note which books they take place at the same time as.
Yes.
Just so you can sort of piece it all together.
Yeah, we chatted for a minute. They have all the information is available out there to do this, absolutely. But in the books themselves, they're not being super, clear about exactly when each of these is taking place.
Yeah, you get some context clues.
You
do. They're few and far between, and I don't know that they necessarily show how tightly this is actually like constrained to certain points in time.
Correct. Yep.
So first up, we have Future State Robin Eternal #1. This takes place at the same time as Next Batman and Harley Quinn in 2025.
Yep.
Written by Megan Fitzmartin, pencils by Eddie Barrows, inker is Aber Ferreira, colorist is Adriano Lucas, and letterer is Pat Brousseau. And this is actually about 3 Robins. It focuses on Tim Drake.
It does.
But we also have former Robin and current, once and future spoiler, Stephanie Brown.
Yep.
And then another Robin who I actually did not know because I did not read We Are Robin.
Only because, I was like, I know this character from something. I don't remember why I know this character. Or have heard of this character. But so... I like her though.
Yeah. Where is her name?
It's Darcy something.
Yes.
And I can't remember her last name.
And she is a deaf superhero.
Yes.
Or at least has hearing loss.
Correct.
She has hearing aids that she can hear with. But she also signs.
Yes.
And this is about the 3 of them trying to stop the magistrate from shipping a modified strain of venom. Not venom, of Lazarus pit
juice.
Water.
Yeah.
Yes. Lazarus juice.
Yes.
That makes robots immortal. Called Lazarus resin.
Yeah. Wow, Lazarus is something completely different from what I always understood it to be, because I thought it was, kind of like regenerative of organic tissue. But hey, comic books.
Yeah. Well, this is something that's been like modified and developed and like lab
Right.
tested and all
Yes.
that. Because we see at the beginning of this, Tim and Steph fight.
Well,
all
not really
hulked out.
fight, just this more disagree than fight.
I was gonna say they fight a robot.
Oh, fight a robot. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
I had not made it to the direct object yet. We see them fight a robot that is hulked out on Lazarus resin, and that robot they can blow up.
Yes.
By the end of the issue, you cannot blow up these robots anymore.
Yeah, they get the full power stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody else gets the full powered stuff at the end too.
Yeah, that was an unexpected turn.
And it makes me now think that maybe now I do understand the title of this book.
Well, yes, I think so. A few years back, DC did a weekly series for a year called Batman Eternal, which was followed up by a weekly series for 6 months called Batman and Robin Eternal.
Okay.
So I feel like in part Robin Eternal is a nod and a wink to that. But yes, as it turns out, that might be more literal as well. I look forward to Immortal Wonder Woman, Diana, and Tim hanging out at the end of time together.
There you go. Fighting, the only one left, I guess, is Vandal Savage. So
Yeah. Vandal Savage, and I don't know, we'll see how Swamp Thing turns out in the year
sure.
3000.
No, I enjoyed this very much. I've always liked Tim and Stephanie, and I like Darcy, this new character.
Yeah.
Or I say new character,
New to us.
New to us, and in recent, stories. But yeah, I like all of these, and this is super, super good.
Yep. 2 years later, Future State Dark Detective #1. This is set around the same time as Future State The Flash. The main feature here, Dark Detective, which is what we'll talk about first, is written by Mariko Tamaki with art by Dan Mora, colors by Jordi Belair, and letters by Aditya Bidikar. Talk about a powerhouse creative team.
Wow, no joke.
So this book starts with Bruce Wayne, who everyone believes dead.
Yep.
They also all believe Batman dead, and no one's really put 2 and 2 together on that.
Yeah, so I did not look and open this book, turned to this, read the first page, turned to the second page, and went, oh, Jordi Belair's coloring this.
Yeah. Apparently one of the design notes that was given out to the creative team was, think Blade Runner.
I can totally see that. And specifically in that page that I'm talking about, it's raining.
Uh-huh.
So everything is kind of blurry, but you get these bright, blurred out, like Gotham City lights blurred out through the rain. It's gorgeous. I just love that aesthetic right there.
Yes. Oh yeah, I know the page you're talking about. Yes. Yeah. And this is very much about Bruce just kind of on the run, in hiding, with no resources, trying to push the magistrate out and save his city once again.
Yeah, so is this person that he kind of bumps into in the diner, is this just a person that's there that has no, or is she going to be more to the story, do you think?
I kind of wondered the same thing, because my first thought was, is this someone I'm supposed to recognize?
And the only reason I say that is because, they just the way that she's presented in the panels, right? Like very prominent. Like there's one where she's like looking out at you, and it's just super clear that you're supposed to get a really, really good look at her.
Yeah, well, and she's also very, very recognizably designed.
Yes, yeah.
Like the sleeveless hoodie she's in.
Yep.
The neon yellow dye in her hair.
Yep.
Like all of that is, I think, designed so that when we see her again we can recognize her.
Yeah, and there's some, she's wearing some sort of distinctive ring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I would be surprised if she did not show back up.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah. Like I don't know that she's somebody that we're supposed to know from before, but yeah, I definitely think she's going to show up in this story again.
this is one of the 4-issue books too, so there's a little more room to like introduce and reintroduce a character.
Yeah. This is the one that has that kind of Gotham City Times Square shot in it.
Yeah.
That's just super, super cool.
Yeah, I liked the bit about Bruce looking up at his obituary on the screen.
Yeah.
Like, in some ways, I think this is kind of the first chapter I expected, given the premise of the solicitation. But it's done so well, and it shows us so much of this world.
It is done very, very well. And, and then there's kind of a thing where we see Bruce. He can't not be Bruce, though.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Really, yeah. Super strong entry here.
The other half of this issue is Grifters, written by Matthew Rosenberg, with art by Carmine Di Giandomenico, colors by Antonio Fabella, and letters by AndWorld Design. And I want to talk about the very first text box in this.
Okay.
And I want to ask you, did your brain make any immediate connections on this first text box, which is, this isn't as bad as it looks? Because I immediately went to, okay, this looks bad, from Hawkeye.
Yeah, I my bet is that's just Matthew being not even thinking. I don't think he went there on purpose.
You know, though, I would believe it if he did, because I feel like that
maybe.
set a very specific kind of expectation for this.
Yeah.
And I don't think this reads like the Fraction Hawkeye. But I think there is a very Hawkeye, yeah, I'm a fuck up and I know it sort of vibe to his take on Grifter.
Yeah.
That I really dig.
Well, and here's the thing, in some ways, a little bit, it almost works even better with Grifter, because Grifter kind of isn't a hero.
Right.
Right?
Like, he's a mercenary.
Right. Which lets you play even more into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, we see him starting off, he's undercover playing cards in, a criminal bar, some sort of seedy environment at the very least. And like, gets into a fight when someone accuses him of cheating. It's like, yeah, no, I didn't cheat, and next time make sure you can beat up the person who you're going to accuse of cheating.
I don't know that he ever says he didn't cheat.
Okay, fair. That's fair.
I do want this set of cards though, which is all of the Batman's kind of like rogues gallery on the cards.
Yes,
I do want this playing card.
Absolutely. And then a pair of cops come in and out him as Cole Cash, and everyone in the bar tries to kill him immediately.
I love how just no shits this book is. Like, everybody just, nope, okay, well, you don't want to come with us? Then have fun, Grifter. Damn.
Yeah. And that gets him on the magistrate's radar and introduces, I think, what's going to be the real hook of this is...
Sure.
Luke Fox needs out of the city.
Yep.
And is trying to hire Grifter to get him out.
Yes.
And Grifter's like, fine, you know what, for $50,000, sure. But we're gonna have to be careful, and I've got a contact. And I don't know who I expected that contact to be.
Wasn't this person?
Character, it wasn't this person.
Nope.
Do we want to say who?
You know what? Let's not in this one.
Okay.
By issue 2, we'll feel free to talk about
I think
it,
at that point we'll have to.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It also makes sense why this character has had a backup announced in a book in April.
Yeah. I am curious because I think I know which particular version of this character this is.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% certain yet.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out next time.
Yeah.
Also set in 2027. In this case, I think specifically after the events of The Flash.
Yes.
Teen Titans #1. And I say after the events of The Flash because this, I think, gives us some explanation for what's going on in that book. This is written for Tim Sheridan. Pencils are by Rafa Sandoval. Inks are by Jordi Tarragona. Colors are by Alejandro Sanchez, and letters are by Rob Lee.
This book is doing a lot of lifting as far as giving us information about how these stories work, I think, also.
Yes.
Very specifically, the opening scene is essentially Nightwing and Arrow at this point,
Mm-hmm.
At the ruins of Titan's Tower, and we see all of these, basically gravestones, right, with people like Donna Troy and Wally West, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I think this is telling us very clearly is this future is not guaranteed.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think, and I've been saying this since we got the solicitations.
Yeah.
But the book itself kind of proves this. I think more than anything we've read so far.
Yep.
This book is the clearest example of what Future State and Infinite Frontiers are.
Yes.
And how they're related. Because we very clearly get flashbacks to what will be the status quo in Teen Titans Academy.
Mm-hmm.
To the point that, like, I'm going to keep this issue handy so that when the first issue of that comes out, I can start, like, connecting the dots on who are these characters and looking for, like, little Easter eggs. Because I feel like, especially in the scenes of the ruined academy, with all the junk on the ground, there are going to be lots of Easter eggs.
Well, and I mean, you can kind of see it already, like in the background of one of these, right? We see all these names on the thing, and then we see literally this giant statue to Roy Harper that's fallen and broken. But you got to kind of look for it.
I also feel like there were just tchotchkes scattered on the ground that are like, okay, this is going to be somebody's equipment. This is going to be somebody's, whatever.
Well, like there's very clearly on that next page there is it Cinder Block from the animated show?
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's his head that's part of the rubble, and I'm like, okay, this is cool.
Like
and clearly the creators of this are familiar with the animated series because I mean, we know Red X is in this. And
right.
Yeah. And this I don't know is really I mean, I guess super light spoiler maybe, but like apparently they're kind of considering some of the animated show to be a little bit canon in that Red X was Dick Grayson at one point in time.
Yeah. And what I think is smart about this is it doesn't actually say this is something that would have already happened.
Right.
It could be something that happens in the early stages of Teen Titans Academy.
Yes. Yeah. Like yeah, they don't pin when it was, but like yeah, this book is doing a lot and I like all of it.
Yeah, it is clearly very cleverly constructed.
Yes.
To one, pay off in the future, but also to stand on its own. Like everything we get in this is we see things played out in the present of 2027 and in the past of 2021-ish. Presumably. And everything you need to know about this book is in those pages. You don't need to know what's coming in Teen Titans Academy. You don't even really have to have read The Flash, although if you have, I think you do get a better idea for both books what's going on with Wally and what's going on with what they're fighting.
Yeah.
In the 2027 parts of this book.
Yeah, and then we get an introduction to who are clearly going to be some of the students at the academy, right? Which my favorite has to be Brat Girl.
Brat Girl is very good. I also liked, what was his name? It's just a great name, if nothing else.
Chupacabra's there.
Chupacabra's excellent.
Is it Gorilla Greg?
Gorilla Greg is also good. I was thinking of Totally Tubular.
Totally Tubular, yes.
Whose costume is very like that recent Flash series with Wally West, the 6-issue miniseries about him going through the multiverse.
Yes, Flash Forward.
Flash Forward, thank you.
Yes.
We also meet the future status quo for Cyborg and Beast Boy, which I think is just great.
Oh, that I
Like,
can't decide if I really like it or I'm disturbed by it.
it's disturbing and tragic and horrifying, absolutely. Like, I don't want to see them have to deal with this, but also just the concept of, well, if you're going to have an apocalyptic future version of the two of them teamed up, having them share a body as Psy-Beast and complete each other's sentences,
And disagree with each other.
yeah, like, that kind of Freaky Friday meets the Odd Couple thing, I cannot think of a better pair of characters than the two of them to do it with.
Yes, so good. Oh, let's not forget Johnny Thunder is apparently part of this too, because his Thunderbolt is there with the team.
Okay, I did not catch that, but you're right.
Oh yeah, yeah. And she even says something. Starfire even says something to Johnny. Yeah.
I wonder if this is like Johnny the Third, Johnny
I mean, maybe,
the Fourth.
maybe. And then clearly, Raven has powered up a bit.
Yep.
And at this point, Crush has grown up too.
Yes.
Crush and Emiko. Oh, and by the way, clearly Emiko and Beast Boy have hit it off during their time at Titans Academy.
Uh-huh.
Because his nickname for her is just, he calls her Meeks. And I love it.
I'm for this.
I am all for this.
And we learn that the team in the present of Future State is looking for the H-Dial so they can help fight off what are basically the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah, sounds about right.
One of which is this entity that has possessed Wally.
Yeah.
Um,
And then we get this weird thing going on through this whole thing where Corey, Starfire, keeps calling Dick Nightwing, and everybody reacts to it like, huh? Why? Why are you calling him Nightwing?
yeah.
And then on the final page, we find out why.
Yeah.
Let's just say he's undergone a identity change again, much like from Robin to Nightwing.
Yes. Yes, he has. And it makes sense why he would be working with Red X.
It does. It does indeed. And that's as far as I want to go into spoiler territory.
Yeah.
But I saw that page and I was like, oh shit, that's going to have to be like my phone wallpaper or something for a while. 'Cause
Uh-huh.
that's a cool page right there.
We also never learn Red X's identity in this issue, and given that it sounds like that's going to be kind of a mystery in Teen Titans Academy, I don't think we're going to learn it in the second issue of this.
No, I am 100% with you on that. Yeah.
Then we move a little further into the future to 2035 for Future State Green Lantern #1. This book has 3 stories in it, and they're set all kind of around 2035. Brian and I were sort of spitballing at the timeline of this before we started recording.
Yeah.
There's an event we'll talk about where just the central power battery or whatever has gone dead.
Yeah.
And
the only reason it's a little kind of iffy is like one of the story takes place over a long period of time. So that's
my best guess, since the main feature of this, Last Lanterns, clearly this has been the status quo for a little bit.
Yes.
My guess is that's 2035.
Right.
I'm guessing that's around the same time taking place around the same time as the taking of Sector 0123.
Well, I'm guessing that's about a year later, right? Because she says something about I've been here for a year.
But what I'm saying is I think probably that's about a year after the event. I'm thinking Last Lanterns is probably also about a year after the event.
Could be,
so the event's probably 2034, which means Book of Guy is probably 2034, then 2035, then 2040.
Yeah, that would fit. Yeah. I mean, the other possibility is that the Last Lanterns takes place a little bit later, so like maybe it's been like 6 or 7 years since the event, because that's the one that we're really not sure where it fits around the event.
The one thing we do know is that there are working lantern rings again by 2040.
Yes.
Because there is a Green Lantern in Justice League.
Correct.
So that's kind of the scale of time we're dealing with on this book, is somewhere in a 5-6 year period in the mid to late 2030s.
Yeah, so let's talk about the main series, or I guess the first story that's in here, which is kind of the Last Lanterns one.
Yep.
Is John Stewart leading a group of former Lanterns, who are depowered, they have no rings.
Yep.
In an evacuation of a planet.
And real quick, this is written by Jeffrey Thorne, art is by Tom Rainey, colors by Mike Atiyeh, and letters by And-World Design.
Yeah. And there is this group of Khunds, which if you've read Teen Titans or Omega Men or anything from way back, the Khunds are a race from the same sector of space as like Tamaran.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is someone in there, a figure that is part of that is now called the God in Red.
Yeah. Which I immediately go to Red Lanterns
Red
and
Lantern,
Atrocitus.
Yes. Yeah, that I 100% am with you on that. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe even Atrocitus, right?
Or descendant of some sort.
Yeah.
Who knows? This is, I think, a very traditional sort of Green Lantern Corps on a mission kind of story.
Yes.
The only difference here is they don't have rings. They're having to get by on wits and tactics, and really the Lanterns in this are just trying to stave off an invading force long enough to evacuate as many people as they can.
And things don't go so well because a whole lot more of the enemy show up than they're anticipating. And yeah, things go bad quickly is all I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we move to the taking of Sector 0123. This is written by Ryan Cady, art is by Sami Basri, colors by Hi-Fi, and letters by Dave Sharp. This is probably my favorite of the three.
I think I agree with you.
And it's in no small part due to just Jessica is probably my favorite Green Lantern.
Okay.
And I think it's a story that works very well for her. She is stuck on basically a space station by herself, as the rings are depowered.
Yeah.
In the action of this story, she's been there for a year and has kept the station running and operative, and has had to do things like bypass different controls to maintain life support with limited energy and all that. And at the same time is using comms to remotely negotiate peace talks and divert resources to save people and all that. And it's very much this inversion of her original status quo as someone who was agoraphobic, did not want to leave the house, lots of anxiety, to, okay, I am stuck here and I'm used to that, but I'm also used to doing good. Let me find a way to do both.
Yeah.
And it hits in a very particular way in month 10 of quarantine?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's very time appropriate for coming out right now. Yeah. This is which they've established this before, that they have, the Green Lantern Corps has what they call sector houses.
Yeah.
Which are these located, and I think we've seen the one for the Earth sector before. So but yeah, that's where she's at. And I think the other part of this that works for me is the characters that they chose to show up.
Mm-hmm. The Yellow Lantern members?
Yeah, so there's 3 Yellow Lanterns that show up, and it's Lo, which I don't remember. I know I'm almost positive I've seen Lo before. Lissa Drock, which I know 100% is a very well established character. And then Ugg-E, which I'm guessing has to have been a character that existed, but man, is she the most disturbing.
Yeah, the swap between mouths and eyes.
Yeah, so she has 2 mouths where eye sockets would be, and her one eye is where our mouth would be, and it's just creepy.
Yeah, you think that one, what is it, a Lucifer character? Or a Hellblazer character? No, maybe it's a Sandman character, but there's a Vertigo character who's got a mouth where a mouth goes and then 2 mouths where eye goes. You think that's bad enough.
Yeah, no, it's worse with an eyeball there.
It is.
But
Yeah,
it's
I don't think I've seen this character before either, but just fantastic design either way.
yeah, and that like there's one scene. So Jessica has to figure out how to take them out, right, without a ring because
Yeah.
she got no ring. And there's one part where she's fighting this character Uggy, and like this character gets hit and like is falling backwards, and you see one of her tongues sticking out, like this long ribbon level tongue sticking out of one of her eye mouths, and it's like, oh no, I don't like that.
Yeah, I like that this also sets up Jessica to be like, in a very sort of die-hard Home Alone kind of way, just
Yes.
sneaking through the station that she knows so well and tricking and taking down the lanterns.
And then a surprising but not unexpected twist at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, it's as much as I like this story, I'm a little afraid of this ending.
Well, you know what? It took me aback a little bit at first, but then I thought about her character, and it really does make sense.
It does. Like, it's... I mean, okay, this is just the DNA of the thing at some level, but like, it's a fine line between controlling fear in overcoming it and controlling fear in weaponizing it.
Yeah.
At the end of this is she picks up the yellow lantern that Lissa is trying to use to overtake the station, and the ring she has taken off of Lo and put on her necklace with her Green Lantern ring lights up and offers her the chance to become a Yellow Lantern.
Yeah.
Which I am super interested in seeing where that goes. I think there's a version of that is amazing and a version of that I'm terrified to see, and I trust Ryan Cady. Like, if we see more of this story for Jessica, I trust Ryan Cady to take it down, having read some of his other work, to take it down the road I would be happier with.
Yes, yeah.
I just don't want to see her become out and out villain, right?
Yeah,
like that's the thing,
right? And we know that, like I said, we know that she had this crippling fear to start with.
Yeah,
we know that she was invited to the Green Lantern Corps because she had the ability to overcome it, which is the thing, right, for Green Lantern.
Right.
And then throughout this whole thing, we kind of hear how she has kept that fear and now uses it to and like, oh yeah, that is a Yellow Lantern. And to be fair, there are examples that we have where there are Yellow Lanterns who are not villains at all.
Right.
So,
and the other thing I think it parallels nicely is her original ring was not a Earth Zero Green Lantern Corps ring.
Yes.
It was Power Ring's ring from Earth 3.
Yes.
So she does have experience like controlling, for lack of a better phrase, an evil ring.
Right.
Like, she has the ability to kind of keep that in check and balance it. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for storytelling coming out of this.
All right.
Then we have The Book of Guy, written by Ernie Altbacker, art by Clayton Henry, colors by Marcelo Maiolo, and letters by Steve Wands. This is simultaneously exactly the story I expected to be.
Yep.
And, like, in meeting those expectations, a really fun story.
It is. To me, this is the best kind of Guy story. Guy can easily become too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he kind of can't be in this one, and that makes it really good.
Yeah.
And the reason he can't be is because he goes to this world to stop this war, and clearly that's when the event happens that he loses his power to his ring.
Yep.
And literally falls to the ground, and then guides his way into literally becoming their prophet.
Yes. And I love that the two factions he is stuck mediating between. Did you catch what the difference between these two factions is?
Is it their slight skin color, or is it their...
It's their hair color.
Is it their facial hair? Okay, yeah.
It's their hair color.
Okay.
Because when we meet the third faction at the end of the book, they're the bald faction.
Right, yes.
It is the single most arbitrary.
Can I tell you that the what has to be the best thing that Guy introduces in this book though is indeed the foosball table of peace.
See, I thought you were going to say the return of, we talked about how death metal opened the door for some dead characters to come back.
Correct.
And we see the return of Badge.
We do, yeah.
One of the best Green Lanterns.
Indeed.
Tied for first with Chip, the other Squirrel Green Lantern.
The other Squirrel Lantern, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, and this takes place like over 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so clearly, if Guy has been on this planet depowered for 25 years and has essentially brought them to peace.
Do you think at some point Guy just gave up on checking his ring? Like, he could get off and his ring could work, but he just hasn't checked it in 15 years?
Man, I don't know.
Like, he's kind of living it up while he's here?
And you know what? Here's the it's either that, or if you think about this, right? So this is 25 years. It does, because it says 25 years after he arrived, right?
Yeah.
So that means that essentially, if we know rings are working by 2040, right, then the event had to take place well before we kind of thought it might have.
Well, there's one other option.
Okay.
The Green Lantern who we see in Justice League,
right,
is Joe Mullane.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've been reading Far Sector, she has a different kind of ring.
That's true.
And the first of its kind.
That is true.
Her ring does not need a battery and recharges itself.
And that may be why that's very true then. Yeah.
So that you're right. It could be that the timeline is different, but it could also be that actually she's the only lantern left at that point.
And then on the final page, somebody shows up who might be a running for a Guy's position of profit.
I don't know if we're getting a second part of this, but I really, really, really need to see Guy and Lobo as, like, competing prophets.
Well, because he shows up and all the people are like, new prophet, prophet, prophet.
Yeah.
And they're, of course, saying PROPHET. And, of course, Lobo goes, prophet? I'm your main man. No. And literally Guy's reaction is to put his head in his hand and go, so damn close. So, yeah, you're right. This may be the end of this. But, oh, my God, so good. Like I said, super, super good.
So next up is Justice League #1. The main story for this, or the first half of this, which is the Justice League story, is set in 2040. This is written by Josh Williamson. Pencils are by Robson Rocha. Inks are by Danielle Enriquez. Colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr. and letters by Tom Napolitano. And this starts with basically a new Legion of Doom sitting in the Hall of Justice, which is, gone through some catastrophe of its own.
And plotting
the destruction of the current Justice League. And we learn that the original Justice League, I love the number of times the phrase, not your dad's Justice League, comes in.
Specifically said to John, yes.
Yeah. Whatever this catastrophe was, this betrayal, we learned eventually, led the team to set some rules that prevent fraternization outside of League business, that only call the League together in case of absolute emergencies, and that require its members not to disclose their identities to each other.
Okay. Did this sound like totally like something that Batman came up with?
I mean, it's Tower of Babel, right?
Right, yeah.
It's 100% Tower of Babel, except in the flashback scene to whoever the betrayer is, Batman is in the kind of crowd of Justice League members with Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, and Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the Justice League members are really, really bad at actually not hanging out with each other in pairs, but just don't tell each other that they're actually doing it.
Well, the first thing you have to realize is, so we know that they have these rules that they don't hang out, they only come together, but at the same time, they're like superstars. Like, there's all of these trading cards and like real world merchandise stuff,
Yeah.
right? And like everybody loves them.
Well, and one of the things I like about that is that kind of calls back to the beginning of the New 52 era Justice League.
Okay.
We see a lot of like merch and books written about and things like that that actually lead to some of those plot lines in the same way that the Tower of Babel idea goes back to Grant Morrison's run, and the actual villains of this story who are revealed are from Grant Morrison's run. Like, this is something that pokes to a bunch of different past eras of Justice League at the same time that it builds this new thing.
All right. Can we talk for a minute about this Legion of Doom?
I would love to.
Because, oh my god.
I had to actually text Jin with one of the characters in this Legion of Doom, Cobalt Blue.
Cobalt Blue, yeah. So we have Tio Morrow, right?
Yep.
And Despera, who is Despero's daughter.
Yep.
Amaze X instead of Amaze O.
Who doesn't just steal powers, but also souls.
Yeah.
Or mimic.
Yep. Cobalt Blue, right? The Screech Owl, who is very clearly a Talon and Bane put together.
Yep.
Oh shit. The Flood, which is some sort of sentient water creature.
Yep. It's Liquidator from Darkwing Duck.
There you go. And the Ultraviolet Lantern,
which is another nod to like recent history.
Yes.
Snyder's run.
Yep.
And Dr. Ivo.
And Dr. Ivo, correct. Yep. Yeah, like ooh, and yeah, the ending page of this is basically tomorrow the Justice League will die. And then we turn the page and it's tomorrow and the Legion of Doom is dead.
Yep. And we meet our Justice League roster, which is, of course, John as Superman.
Yep.
Yara Flor is Wonder Woman, and this is actually 10 years before we see her in Yara Flor from last week's, the Wonder Woman book from last week.
Yes, correct.
So at that point, she's actually been active for a while already.
Right. Like she's established and everything.
Yeah. We have Andy Curry, the Aqua Woman. Jess, I assume Quick is Jess's last name. They are the Flash from an alternate world who stayed and hung out here to help.
Yep.
Joe Mullane is the Green Lantern, and the Batman from the next Batman is our Batman.
Correct. And we are not told here who that is either.
Correct.
Yeah.
When we know, but we are not telling.
So yeah. Wow. So I guess they agree to let Green Lantern investigate these murders.
Yeah, because she is. I love this moment where they're like, "Okay, Flash, what do you think?" And someone responds, "Barry was the CSI.
It's not Andy." She's like, "They're not Barry, Wonder Woman. Crime scenes were his deal."
Yeah.
Wait,
but then they remember
to which Flash's response is perfect because it's and I think we're stepping in the flood. Ew, because the floor is covered with water.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no.
But yeah, Joe Mullane is an actual officer of the law.
Right.
Even prior to becoming a Green Lantern. Like, she has experience investigating crime scenes, so they leave her to it.
Yeah, like that's what she did in Far Sector initially was she was their police officer, right? So because of their non-fraternization thing, right, they decide to leave Joe to investigate and they go their separate ways.
Sort of.
Or sort of, yeah. To which John kind of wrangles in Yara Flor and talks about why can't we fraternize with these? Why do we have these rules in place?
He's struggling with being like together but alone.
Correct. Yes.
Which is a really Superman beat for him.
It is.
I also like the other pair who we see together, which is Andy and Jess, who feel kind of flirtatious, at least.
A little bit, because she's something about Jess says something about where or I guess it's Andy says, we should never fraternize outside missions, just stay professional. And Jess is like, that's a rule made by the old Justice League that we should have left in our dust. And Andy's like, it's intended to protect us. And Jess's response is, then why do you break the rules for me, princess?
Which they say while feeding Andy a piece of popcorn or whatever.
Yeah. There's clearly some flirtatious.
Yeah.
Whether that means anything or not, we'll find out. But yeah.
And then doppelgangers of all the members who know everyone's real identities show up and take them out, and we meet the real villains of the piece, the Hyper Clan.
The Hyper Clan. Yeah, who have posed as other members to infiltrate, and now, by the way, they are taking over and going to become the Justice League. They're like taking the form of them. Oh boy.
Yeah, I really dug this. I also dug the backup for this, which is Justice League Dark.
It is.
Written by Ram V, art by Marcio Takara, colors by Marcelo Maiolo, and letters by Rob Lee. This is set actually in 2030, which makes this contemporaneous roughly with Superman of Metropolis from last week.
Yep.
And
just after Teen Titans and
yes.
Flash.
Yeah. Merlin has shown up and basically taken all the magic for himself, is wrangling any last magic users and artifacts. The Justice League Dark team has been split up and fragmented. Etrigan now resides in Bobo. No one has seen Ragman in years. No one has seen Dr. Fate in years.
Well, and I must point out, Alex, one of the questions Alex had was, how is Bobo going to summon him? And of course, the answer is, gone the Simeon, rise the demon Etrigan.
Yes. I approve very much.
I cackled when I read it too, because I was like, Alex is going to love that.
Yep, I do. A lot of this issue is kind of getting the band back together.
Yeah.
But there is so much clever world building in doing that it never feels by the numbers.
Right. Yeah, like they have to track down where this artifact they found came from, and in doing so, run into Rory Regan.
Yeah. And this is framed or introduced at least by a scene with this old man on a park bench who is blind but can see some things, and when he looks in his coffee can see the future, and has seen his own death that day.
Wow, that's quite a coffee can he's got there.
Yeah. The best part of waking up
is magic in your cup.
Clearly,
part of getting the band back together is, of course, as soon as they ran into Rory, you knew that Ragman was coming back.
Yep.
Yeah. So now we have Bobo with Etrigan, Zatanna, and Ragman. And who do they run into when they are tracking down what's left?
That would be John Constantine.
Of course.
If there is bullshit going on, you know John Constantine somewhere.
And who has he been working with? Madame Xanadu.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yes.
That's right. Yep. Because she keeps drawing the same tarot cards.
Uh-huh. Until they show up.
Clearly something also has gone down here. Not just because Etrigan is tied to Bobo, but Jason Blood has done something.
Or something has happened to him. Like, there's some big mystery about it.
Yeah.
Because when they finally when Etrigan reveals who this old man is,
yeah,
this person says, yeah, it's time you learned the truth about Jason Blood.
And it was Merlin originally who tied Etrigan and Blood together.
Yes.
So this makes a lot of sense. In fact, one of the things that this book reminded me of, partly just, I think, because of drawing on some of those pieces of lore, is an early New 52 book called Demon Knights.
Mm-hmm.
That was set in the past, and Etrigan and Jason Blood were characters in it.
Yep, and Madame Xanadu was in there, right?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. But yeah, I like everything this story is doing. I like the threads it's drawing from. I like that it's telling a story separate from what has happened so far.
Yes.
in Romvi's Justice League Dark run,
Yes.
and that we know sets up the run he'll be doing as the backup in Justice League going forward.
Yeah.
I also really like Marcelo Maiolo's decisions in how he colors panels throughout this, where he draws focus.
Yeah.
I know his work primarily with Andrea Sorrentino. Like, I've read other books he's colored. There are a couple of other artists he colors quite often. But one of the things he's really good at is using simplified or less saturated color palettes in certain panels at certain times to do things like pull focus or separate points in time without needing like a text box to go back and explain or something like that. It's smart color work, and I think he does a really good job with it here.
I 100% agree. Like, there's this beautiful, beautiful panel where Etrigan is breathing fire, and it's just this big orange bloom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Moving on. Future State Kara Zor-El, Superwoman #1. This is set in 2050 at the same time as the Wonder Woman book from last week, starring Yara Flor. This, however, takes place on the moon.
Yeah, this is the one that was the least, I think, what I maybe because I had no idea what to expect.
I think that was it for me too. This is written by Marguerite Bennett. Art and colors are by Marguerite Sauvage. Letters are by Wes Abbott.
Yeah. So super super sad opening.
Yeah. We start at Crypto's tombstone.
Yeah, on the moon.
On the moon.
And in the moon colony, I should say, because there's a whole colony here on the moon.
Yeah.
And
a refugee colony, specifically.
Yeah, and through the narration, it's basically Kara talking to Crypto and telling him how he taught her to be a good person.
Yeah, like one of the through lines for this story is when this refugee with powers who doesn't know how to control them shows up, like, she takes her entire example on how to be there for someone from Crypto, which is really sweet.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, there's something about the way she places him in mentor role when the other major through line of this is feeling like kind of always estranged from Clark and John.
Right.
That really creates a very specific sort of worldview, I think, for Kara.
Right. And this very, very much leans on the idea that Kara was supposed to kind of come with John and, basically raise him and shepherd him and guide him because she was older on Krypton.
Yeah.
And the fact that because of the path that her spaceship took and things that happened, he was already completely full grown and older than her when she arrived.
Yeah.
And this character that she meets kind of, basically doesn't understand why she's not upset that kind of legacy that Superman has was taken from her.
Well, and what I like about this setup, and I think it's smart to have put this so far in the future.
Yeah.
Not only, does Kara not get to be Superman's protector.
Right.
But when it comes time for him to pass his legacy on, because John exists, it moves past her.
Right.
And one thing I think this story informs really well is the Superman of Metropolis book from last week. Kind of the bitterness that we talked about. The even more maybe tempered anger at John that Brain Cells sort of pulled out of her. Like, this book gives that some context.
Yes, I agree.
But this is also far enough out that it's truly believable that, Kara has moved on and is accepted. This is not what my life is going to be. Let me find purpose somewhere else.
And her purpose now is she is the protector of this moon colony that is a refugee for anyone who is not accepted somewhere else.
Yeah. And kind of the tragedy of it is no one there really likes her very much either.
Right.
Because, well, she's so powerful and they just kind of want it to be peaceful and quiet.
Well, but to be fair to her, she doesn't. She's kind of embraced pacifism. She doesn't want to fight anymore.
Well, right, and I that was not meant as a criticism of her.
No, right? No, I understand.
That's their response to her. But yeah, she like tends to gardens and talks to Crypto like almost in a sort of therapeutic kind of way. Like it's very Doctor Who in a way. Like if Doctor Who had if the Doctor had a really bad time and just got away for a while and refused to fight anymore, it feels like this would be that sort of status quo.
Yeah. And I love there's one scene where she's walking through the moon colony with this new person that she's kind of become mentor for, this new powered person who, she's trying to help learn to control her powers and stuff. And there's this little girl walking with her dog, and like it's very clearly a reminder of, her and Crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that it would have been easy to tell this story using a more like DC house style in the art.
Yep.
But Marguerite Sauvage has a very specific kind of illustrated, almost pastoral vibe to her art in this book that I think adds to everything we've talked about so far too. Like it creates this almost bottle world feels like a weird thing to say about a book about Kara Zor-El, whose hometown was in fact trapped in a bottle. But there's probably also something intentional about the fact that she does live in a big domed-in moon colony.
Sure.
But it creates this sort of like it creates this sort of specific world for her to live in that is quieter and is softer and is more peaceful visually and not just narratively.
And then the past of this girl that she is mentoring shows up, and she has to then deal with how she's gonna respond to that.
Yeah.
Like I said, this one is probably the most different, but at the same time, I didn't know what to expect. So I mean, not different from my expectations, just different from, I think, a lot of these others and traditional kind of superhero stories.
I agree.
That being said, I really liked it.
I did too. I think it stands out because it is doing something so different. Lenari, by the way, is this other character.
Yes. All right. One more.
20 years further into the future, 2070 brings us to Superman Wonder Woman #1. This is written by Dan Waters, art is by Leila Del Duca, colorist is Nick Filardi, and letterer is Tom Napolitano. One of the things I like out of the gate about this book is that we learn that obviously the world is not perfect, but more or less like Metropolis at least is good, and Superman and Wonder Woman have pretty much gotten things under control. Now, we see Wonder Woman in Brazil dealing with like bureaucrats and corruption and all of that.
Imagine that. There's still bad people in the world who are taking advantage of situations.
The world's not perfect, but by and large it feels like the big threats they have under control, and we're not getting like every 6 months cities get destroyed and crises happen and
Atlantis floods the world to try to attack them
there are no events in the future is what it sounds like.
So this is like a weird quote of the week, but this is has my, I'm going to call it quote of the week.
Brian's quote of the week, but weird.
So there's we talked about how there's this corruption in Sao Paulo where essentially they haven't been repairing the infrastructure, and so the city is completely gridlocked with traffic, and all of the politicians and the people in power use helicopters to fly over the city, right? And something happens, and this one helicopter with this guy kind of falls out of the sky, and Wonder Woman catches it, and basically it's crumpled up at the end, and it's sitting, by the side of the road, in the city. And
I
these
know where
people
this is
all
going.
take out these markers and are writing things on this crumpled piece of, elitist helicopter, right? And it's things like, I will not embezzle from the people of my city. I will not try to shoot Wonder Woman.
Now, is it the people or is it the two politicians who
Well,
are in it who she is making
it's essentially
right?
so I'm sorry, I did say that. It's essentially the helicopter pilot and the politician who
Yeah.
she is making essentially write sentences on the board.
It's the Simpsons chalkboard gag.
Exactly, yeah. But they're
Yeah.
having to do it on the helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our inciting event in this is, as this helicopter is flying, as John is out starting his patrol, a second sun shows up in the sky.
Yeah.
And we learn that it is, what was it called? Solaris? It is Solaris who has come to consume and defeat Superman once and for all.
Yeah, he's an enemy of John's. Yeah.
Which does not play well to Yara's cousin, ancestor of some sort, the sun god, who immediately goes up and in a very yep, I'm a god, I'm going to peacock and pose and fight this thing, challenges Solaris to a race?
Well, because she goes and we find out that the sun and the moon are brothers and they live together in the same house.
Yeah.
And I
because
love
people
how
believe in her, people have started believing in the gods again.
and I love how this not mirrors, but is it kind of pays homage to the same kind of weird god family that Diana always had.
Yeah.
Right? But that it's Yara's beliefs and traditions and their history, and I love it.
I was trying to find or remember where I saw this earlier this week. I don't remember if it was in Dan Waters' newsletter or in something one of the creators working on one of the Yara Floor books tweeted. But there was a comment that I read about sort of the guiding ethos for Yara Flor as a character, where Diana sought to soothe the world of man. Yara Flor wants to soothe the world of the gods.
Okay.
And you see that in this issue, I think. I also think it's a really clever distinction, okay, we can fix the symptoms or we can fix the problems.
And I do think it's important to know that this one takes place, so far after, Justice League, for instance.
30 years later.
Right. To know that these two characters, Yara and John, have a lot of history together at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that we see them so far apart, because not just do we have that history, but we can kind of see where, in Justice League, they almost feel closer than they do here.
Yeah.
They've been pulled apart and have worked in other directions so much. There's a scene in here where he's trying to get her to rejoin the Justice League, and she's like, have you changed X, Y, and Z?
Right.
She's like, no, then I'm good where I'm at.
Yeah, and basically,
I have other priorities.
the first thing that he says when they see each other is he's like, Wonder Woman, it's been a minute. Yeah. So clearly they haven't spoken in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have history and they're important to each other, but some distance has shown up, and I think that's done in a smart way here that makes it work really well.
Yep. Agreed.
I think it's that it helps sell the premise that the world is a little calmer, because why would they see each other as much or have to work together as much?
Right.
If things are calmer.
Yep. And then I do like the actual title of this book, which is Superman and Wonder Woman and the Planet's Finest.
Yes.
Yeah. Clever.
Yeah.
Clever.
And that is it for Future State this week.
I know these are chunky sections, but this stuff is all so new and so good.
Well, and it's seeding things that will be paying off for years to come.
Yeah. We're going to start picking it up now.
Yep.
Let's go.
Next up, we have Homesick Pilots, number 2. This is written by Dan Waters, art and color by Casper Wingard, letters by Aditya Bidikar, designed by Tom Moeller. the reason we wanted to talk about this again this week is I think this is an even clearer example of what this book is actually going to be about. Like, number 1 was prologue, how did we get here?
Right.
And number 2 shows what Amy's mission is, retrieving these items, these ghosts that have been lost from the mansion.
Yeah, she's like, it's going to be, I think it's going to be much more Monster of the Week-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously it's ghosts and that kind of thing. But yeah, like her retrieving these ghosts and bringing them back to the house, right? And one of the things I think, like, we get a clear explanation of one of the characters asks her, "Are you dead?" And she's like, "No, I think just a little ghosty around the edges."
I love that so much.
I do too.
The design and the art, the character design and the art again here really, really elevate this book.
Yes.
The last issue ended with Amy kind of confronting this woman who had this lucky horseshoe, and we see that play out. And we learn that, like, the woman says, "You can't take this from me. I want you to, it just won't let you."
Right, like, not like, because it's very, Amy takes it as, "Oh, you don't think I can, huh?" And she's like, no, you don't understand. It's not that I don't want you to. Like, I don't think you can.
And we learn that this lucky horseshoe has created this monkey's paw situation where essentially reality is meaningless now to this woman because she gets what she wants.
But none of it's real.
None of it's real.
None of it's earned, right?
The model looking guy who is half naked in her apartment, like, there'll be another one in 2 days because he won't stick around because it's not real. There's no substance. Fame comes easily. She hasn't been caught in the rain in years and misses the feel of the rain on her skin.
Yeah.
And we even learn, and some content warning maybe for this book, there is a lot of, like, suicide related activity in this book.
Yep.
We learned that she had tried to kill herself and it wouldn't let her. So when Amy tries to take it, it possesses her. And this is, like, really cool character design. Like, she becomes this sort of Square Enix Final Fantasy boss.
Yeah.
A horseshoe angel. And Amy has to chase her through the city and eventually takes the horseshoe. And the only thing this woman knows to do in this moment of freedom is to jump off the roof.
She is, I mean, it's very clear. She is absolutely certain that it will come back to her.
Yeah.
Again. And she, in this moment of freedom, this one small window that she feels she has, the only way she can think to end it is to end it.
And that's where I think, like, the stakes of this book really come from. The ways that if Amy does not do this job,
right,
these items, these ghosts will ruin people.
Yeah. And then we see Amy gets the horseshoe back to the house, and we see the presentation of this ghost in its natural ghost form, I guess is the best way to put that.
Creepy as fuck.
It is. So this is like the most oh god, what's like this is like Ice Cream Man or like some sort of dreaming style character, right? Like Vertigo type character.
Sort of like this mouth that curls up into a horseshoe and no eyes.
Yeah, like right
no
where,
head
like
above
literally right above the mouth, right where your nose would be. It starts, and it's just a horseshoe that goes up for his head from there. It's like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, the variant cover for this issue is by Christian Ward, and it is that personification of the horseshoe, and it is creepy as fuck.
Yeah. But yeah, this book is, and so I think again, the reason we wanted to mention this is I think what this book is going to be is her retrieving these different ghosts.
Yeah.
And there's clearly a backstory that's going to build slowly through that, and then erupt at some point. But yeah.
And her bandmates like kind of frame the issue. They can't get back into the house to save her. They go to try to find help, and that goes badly for them. We learn that the house lies to her and says nothing has happened while she is gone.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know what's happened to all of them.
Yeah, I love her comment. I didn't know a house could lie.
So
Turns out
great.
it can. Turns out pretty much any sentient creature can lie. Yeah. That's how it works.
All right, King in Black roundup. We have some territory to cover here, and we're going to do it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
First up is Gwynnm vs. Carnage #1. This is written by Shannon McGuire, art by Flaviano, colors by Rico Renzi, and letters by Ariana Maher. I have missed solo Spider-Gwen.
Me too.
I don't know if you read the back matter for this, but this actually gave them a chance to use an idea that Shannon McGuire had been building toward.
Oh, no.
When the series ended. Yeah. This was something they always wanted to do in the Spider-Gwen book.
Was corrupt Mary Jane?
Yes. Was specifically have a Mary Jane Carnage.
Oh.
Which is what this issue builds toward and what this arc as a whole is going to be about. It is a King in Black tie-in. It deals with the fact that Gwen's suit is an artificial venom. Over on Earth-65, Jackal is experimenting with the spiders he had harvested, the little venom spiders that form her suit that he had harvested, and using Mary Jane as his test subject because he can't find Gwen, who's going to school and living on Earth-65. And when she tries to jump home to avoid King in Black, that pulls Mary Jane into Earth-616 and gives the King in Black the chance to corrupt her.
Yeah, and there's a specific reason why, because at the same time on Earth-65, the Jackal has introduced the spiders that he has captured from Gwen to Mary Jane.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they are connected now.
Right.
In a way. Next we have Planet of the... Oh, I also want to say real quick. Rico Renzi, who colored all the Spider-Gwen, at least the original Spider-Gwen run, returns to color this, and God, his colors are just the best.
Yeah, like all those pinks and purpley blues and
he still keeps like a different color palette between 616 and Earth-65.
Yep.
But that same really saturated, almost neon feel.
Yep.
Kicks in. Next up is Planet of the Symbiotes #1, which is actually a pair of stories. If you read Absolute Carnage, there are a bunch of tie-ins to that book, and these are actually the same creative teams writing the same characters as a couple of those tie-ins. The first is a Scream story. This is written by Clay McLeod Chapman, art is by Guy Villanova, colors by Dean White, letters by Corey Pettit. And this is Scream, who is Andy at this point. Andy, I don't remember her last name. She had been, I believe, an ongoing character in Colin Bunn's Venom run, and in Absolute Carnage became the host for Scream. This is her kind of fighting off symbiotes. She has fire powers and isn't swayed by Null, and tries to fight back against other symbiotes who want to absorb her into them. Then we have a Ravencroft story. This is written by Frank Thierry, art is by Danilo S. Beyruth, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, letters by Corey Pettit as well. This picks up with Misty Knight and John Jameson Jr., who are embedded in Ravencroft, kind of on lookout for more Carnage, Venom, symbiote activity. And this sees the return of one of Cletus Cassidy's ancestors, who was apparently like the most lethal symbiote host ever from the dead. After that is Thunderbolts #1, written by Matthew Rosenberg, art and colors by Juan Ferreira, and letters by Joe Sabino. This is very much, in some ways, a continuation of Rosenberg's time writing Wilson Fisk.
Okay.
Yeah, he wrote a couple of Kingpin series back during Civil War II and after, or maybe right before. This is about Wilson Fisk pulling together his own team to fight Null. And the roster, like... this might as well be a Suicide Squad book, just the number of characters who die, sometimes more than once in this issue. Or who are just like, nah, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore, peace. You want to try to stop me? No, Rhino, I do not. You may go. But Taskmaster and Star kind of anchor this team. And it's kind of just them trying to get through the city to the person who Fisk has said will be like their ace up their sleeve to fight Null. And ultimately they wind up at Ravenscroft, where Norman Osborn answers the door. And there's one problem. Norman Osborn has been sin-eaten.
Oh boy.
So he's like the friendly, helpful Norman Osborn who's not going to be useful at all.
Nope.
After that is The Union #2. This is written by Paul Grist, pencils by Andrea DeVito, inks by LeBeau Underwood, colors by Nolan Woodard, and letters by Travis Lanham. This deals with the immediate fallout of the Null Dragon killing Britannia in its first issue. The team fights as well as they can, fights off the symbiotes as they attack. The Choir gets taken, so they save her. And at the end of this, the team's like, nah, peace. We were here for Britannia. We are not answering to you, Union Jack. In fact, fuck you. And they disband. At which point Union Jack finds out there was a clause in his contract that put him in charge, and he's got like 1 week to put the team back together, or he just gets thrown in jail, and it's all his fault that the team fell apart.
Oops.
Yeah. It's a fun book that doesn't feel too tied up in just being about King in Black, but clearly like is using that to jumpstart the story it's telling.
Okay.
Now we segue to Krakoa for one more King in Black tie-in that we're going to talk about on its own. S.W.O.R.D #2. This is written by Al Ewing, art by Valerio Schiti, colors by Marte Gracia, and letters by Ariana Maher. Designer is Tom Muller. Tell me about this book, Brian.
So real quick, the reason this is a tie-in with King in Black is really just it's set during that, and it's kind of their reaction to it.
Yeah.
And we get Abigail asking for feedback from each of her full spectrum report, as she says, because she has all of her teams named, right?
Her departments are color coded, so all her department heads are yellow leader,
so
green leader.
she gets this feedback, and of specific note, I think are two things. One is that Mentalo is the violet now.
Yep.
Indigo, which is security, which is Cable, is non-responsive. I think that's going to be important.
I'd say so.
Yeah, and and then the rest of the teams kind of respond as you would expect or whatever.
Yeah.
And we get some the text pages on this, which show up kind of in all the mutant books, are super critical, especially this first one.
Yeah.
In that it talks about why she chose Mentalo, and essentially what she has presented to the world and to him is he was the only one available that she could get.
Right.
Turns out that the reason she wants him specifically is he cares a whole lot more about money than he does about mutant rights and the belief in Krakoa, and that makes him loyal to her since she's paying him more so than it does to Krakoa.
Yeah.
So she has somebody that is loyal to her and not to Krakoa.
And I think that is important to the general sort of focus of this book.
Yep.
In the same way that normally I think it's really hard for a book to set its own tone and identity when it immediately gets thrown into an event.
Yep.
But this book is, I think, uniquely positioned to actually clarify its identity by being immediately thrown into an event. And I say that because in addition to seeing Abigail Brand sort of protect her own agenda,
right,
Abigail Brand responds to this, and S.W.O.R.D responds to this from the perspective of, this is a global threat. The world has been encased in a symbiote.
Yep.
And while, yes, we will respond by going to Krakoa first, we're really doing that because that's our point of contact to return to Earth.
Right.
That's where the gates will take us, and we're the only people who can get on and off Earth right now.
Yep.
But she's responding to this in the same way that we've seen her talk in Empire and in the first issue of this, where this is not about just protecting Krakoa. This is about protecting the world.
And the thought that occurred to me in this is it's a whole lot, or to me, it kind of related to like the Secret Service, right? In that the Secret Service report to the president. They work for the president. But when it comes to matters of security or when there's a threat, they don't listen to what he wants or what he says.
Yeah.
Their job is their ultimate job is to protect him in spite of himself in some cases.
I was watching an episode of The West Wing yesterday for, I don't know, the 20th time.
Sure.
That had that same idea. It's like, there's this plane flying over the White House and it's unidentified. And Leo tells Bartlett, if the Secret Service wants you in the bunker and you refuse to go, they will pick you up and take you there, and your feet might touch the ground once or twice on the way.
Yeah. And Abigail very much has that kind of mentality. Like, if there's a global threat that is happening that could end all life on Earth, I'm going to do my job, which is to make sure that that doesn't happen somehow.
Yeah.
And we find out what her plan for that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Protocol 5.
Yep.
We also get, and I'm glad we're getting into this pretty much right away, the immediate, oh no, Fabian Cortez being here is a really bad idea, and he is getting his hooks on Magneto again already, god damn it.
Yes.
Plotline.
Yep.
We see him like supercharge Sunfire and turn to Magneto and be like, do you remember me now? Magneto's like, yes, I do in fact. And the diplomacy head,
yes,
sees this as like, okay, no, this is happening again. Got to do something about this.
Yeah, and the other thing I love is that the head of the diplomat has also brought Pybok, who is the Kree Skrull ambassador.
Yes.
To here, because they can use all the help they can get, and like is having to, this is not us at our best, but this is us responding to a crisis. And I think we should point out what Protocol 5 is at this point.
Yes.
And there's I was like, Protocol 5? Why would, well, first it was, I wonder if it's Protocol V or Protocol 5.
Yeah, because it's
question.
Roman numeral.
Right. And very clearly then, it is definitely Protocol 5, because what she has tasked Mentalo to do is to essentially show up to the 5, right, who are the ones who resurrect all mutants, and essentially kidnap them.
Yeah, get them to safety.
And take them off planet.
Yeah, I love Mentalo's introduction in this. One, when he first shows up, it's in this, like, think, speak, group chat.
Yeah.
Where all the department heads are weighing in, and he is sitting on the toilet as he is connecting everybody and giving his opinion. And he keeps being like, okay, if I'm going to do this, there's one thing I need. There's one thing I need. Or he keeps asking for the thing.
Right.
We learn what the thing is. It is his think tank.
Yep.
Just the most dysfunctional cast, and I love it.
It is wonderful. Yeah.
Then we move on to Marauders, number 17. This is written by Jerry Duggan, art by Matteo Lolli, colors by Edgar Delgado, letters by Corey Pettit, and again, designer is Tom Muller.
And again, insanely good book.
Yeah, this is, in a lot of ways, a Storm issue.
Yeah, it is.
It is about Storm and Callisto wanting to go through, what is it called? The Gauntlet?
The Crucible.
The Crucible, thank you. To get her powers back.
Yes, and if you don't remember, the Crucible is something that Apocalypse set up, that mutants who lost their powers when Wanda did her thing can basically petition, and if they are selected, they could fight Apocalypse and in this Crucible, and he would kill them so that the 5 could resurrect them with their powers.
Yeah. this is one of a pair of issues. The other was something just announced. Back in our favorite issues of 2020 or favorite books of 2020 episode, we mentioned an issue of X-Men that still had some ideas that had not been totally fleshed out. This calls back to that. We also learned this week that we're going to get a new book from Cy Spurrier called Way of X.
Yeah.
That will tie into that issue as well.
Maybe
or
some
be born of that issue
maybe
as well.
have some religious overtones.
Well, it's Nightcrawler starting his religion that he mentions.
His mutant religion. And what we find out is here Callisto has tracked down Storm because now that Apocalypse is gone, you are supposed to bring your own counterpart to the Crucible to
fight.
To end you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To fight and kill you.
Yes. And, Storm is like, I don't begrudge anybody that wants to be, I don't think the Crucible is wrong. I'm not part of it. I don't think that it's for me, right, to be part of it. So she apologizes and leaves. And so we see Callisto, I want to follow this thread through real quick. We see Callisto go and basically Silver Samurai is now kind of, I guess,
the
mediating,
MC.
Right?
Yeah.
This and says, well, if your person isn't here, then I offer my sword. And Storm shows up.
Yeah, a couple of other people. Well, the
Fenris twins.
The racist Nazi children of who's their father? Strucker.
Strucker, von Strucker.
Yeah.
Yes.
They offer themselves. I imagine they offer themselves to anyone who walks in the door.
To which I love Callisto's. She's like, if you people show up in here, I'll be in the abyss, not in. I'll be locked away, not resurrected. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, then Storm shows up,
and basically Storm does what she needs to for Callisto, and that I thought that was a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that Storm clearly does this and like, let's just get this over with. Let's not draw it out.
Right. Yeah.
Let's do it as painlessly as possible.
Yep.
The kind of B plot to this issue, which I do want to point out because I think this is clearly setting things up that will be a big part of the future.
Big time.
Is, I guess there are two other plots here that do that. I'm talking about Kate going to Madripoor to thank the people who found and took care of
Lockheed.
I always want to call him Lockjaw, and then I remember, nope, that's Big Dog.
That's Inhumans. Yeah.
Which leads to the Hellfire Trading Company buying big chunks of real estate in Madripoor, and Kate showing up to tell Verendi, hey, fuck you.
Yeah, pretty much. And then the kind of the other B plot in this is Emma has bought this island, and we find out has bought several islands around the world.
Yeah.
Mostly unbeknownst to the Quiet Council.
Yes. And we had seen the structure on this island built in an earlier issue.
Correct. And we find out that what she is doing is basically she's going to set this up as kind of corporate headquarters, kind of embassy.
Yeah, like they're going to host a state dinner.
Correct.
And it also, like, this was mentioned in passing, I think on a text page, but this state dinner will be where the new X-Men roster is held.
Correct.
As announced.
Yep. And it's interesting because the people that are being invited to this dinner are indeed many of the people you would think, ambassadors and heads of states and those kind of things, but also a lot of intelligence people from intelligence agencies. And then as we find out at the end, Kate has also gone to Madripoor to deliver an invitation to the Verendi.
Yeah.
So it is clearly not just let's invite our friends and have a party.
Yeah.
It is also very clearly a statement to others.
There is one X-Men book that has been announced It was announced about a year ago, and then referenced in a couple of issues, but still has not been solicited. And I wonder if this is going to be the genesis of that book.
Okay.
The X-Corp book.
Yep, could be.
With all the R&D folks and heads of state and public-facing nature of Emma's machinations here. And it being tied to the Hellfire Corporation.
Right.
And there is kind of a passing note in here that the Hellfire Corporation is restructuring a little bit.
Yes.
White and Black are trading basically their responsibilities.
And this really kind of leads into, I think, the idea of, yes, the Hellfire Trading Club is a Krakoan business, but it is a business entity that is separate from the government.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like, Apple. Yes, Apple is a U.S. company, but it is not, it is not beholden to the government and is not, it does not just support their agendas and that's it.
It has its own agenda.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, is it still good? Red Atlantis #3, Brian.
Oh, this is Stephanie Phillips, and we find out a lot more about Miriam's family, and they find out about her.
7 Secrets #6. This is the end of this book's first arc. There's going to be a couple months break if you want to get caught up. Also, every issue of this is going back to reprint. The Seekers launch their attack on the stronghold that everyone moved into at the end of 5. And then the scope and scale of this book completely changes again. Jesus Christ. For a book about secrets, this sure does have a lot of them. Does what it says on the tin. Commanders in Crisis #4.
Yeah, this is only issue 4, but it is the end of the first arc. We kind of find out who our villains really are, and we get a big reveal about one of our main characters. It definitely sets up a bit of a cliffhanger crisis situation.
Cool.
Like it.
Haha #1. This is written by W. Maxwell Prince. The artist for this issue is Vanessa Del Rey, although the book's concept is that each issue changes artist and works like an anthology story. Colorist is by Chris O'Halloran, and letterer is Good Old Neon. I am not familiar with Good Old Neon, but I love the name. This is an anthology book about clowns. This issue follows a clown who works at a small carnival that is shutting down and letting everyone go. His family life is unhappy. It's the same sort of existential dread as Ice Cream Man. And then as he goes to the bank to deposit his last check, he's shot in the head by robbers.
Oops.
After one of his work friends tries to mug him. And the whole time he's like, it could be worse, it could be worse, it could be worse. And then he gets a new outlook on life, let's say. The Immortal Hulk #42. This issue has a lot of moving parts. We see Gyrick really starting to take a firm hold on Gamma Flight, which leads to his having to bring in a new team. As one of this book's characters learns that they may have their own gamma powers.
All right.
The Autumnal #4. We learn the secret history of Clementine Biddle. Heavy #4 wraps up the book's first arc, and we learn 2 things. 1, the present is not the present. 2, what happens if you set off what basically becomes an atomic bomb in heaven, or purgatory at least. Both excellent books, Autumnal and Heavy.
Okay.
This week's books. Once again, we will start with a full future state rundown. Catwoman #1 by Ram V and Otto Schmidt comes out this week, as well as Immortal Wonder Woman #1 with a main feature by Becky Cloonan, Michael Conrad, and Jen Bartel, and a backup following Nubia from L.L. McKinney, Aletha Martinez, and Mark Morales. We get Nightwing #1 from Andrew Constant and Nicholas Scott, as well as Shazam #1 by Tim Sheridan and Eduardo Pansica. We get Superman Worlds at War #1 with a main feature by Philip Kennedy Johnson and Mikkel Hanin, a Midnighter story from Becky Cloonan, Michael Conrad, and Gleb Melnikov, a Black Racer story from Brandon Easton and S.W.O.R.D, and a Mr. Miracle story from Brandon Easton and Valentin Delandro. If you're paying attention at home, that Mr. Miracle story picks up from Superman of Metropolis 2 weeks ago. And then finally, the second issue of The Next Batman, with a main story from John Ridley and Laura Braga, a Batgirls story from Vita Ayala and Aneke, and Gotham City Sirens from Paula Sevenbergen and Emanuela Lupacino. Brian.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about Crimson Flowers #1.
This is a new book from Dark Horse by Matt Kent, and turns out that the Russian government is trying to weaponize Russian folk tales to create assassins.
Very cool.
Yes.
Then over at Boom, we have Abbott 1973, #1 of 6. This is from Saladin Ahmed, Sami Cavella, Matea Iacono, and Jim Campbell. This is the second book of Saladin Ahmed's Abbott series. This follows a journalist turned supernatural investigator, Elena Abbott, as she sort of comes to term with her role in the superpowered stuff going on in Detroit. Anything else from you, Brian?
I don't think so, sir.
In that case, we would like to thank Chase Parker for our intro voiceover. You can visit us at panelologypodcast.com, support us at patreon.com/panelology, get merch at bit.ly/panelologymerch, capital P, capital M, or send us questions and comments at bit.ly/panelologymailbag, capital P, capital M. I'm Alex.
And I am Brian. Go read all those comics.